From the north side of the San Francisco Bay to Singapore, welcome to Urban X Real Talk Fitness Radio with your host, business owner, lecturer, author, master trainer, Tiaja. With over 30 years of experience in the health and fitness industry, he will challenge the fitness between your ears. So prepare your mind, body, and soul for the revolution of self-care, the evolution of fit, with real talk about real people, real health, real fitness, and the real deal behind our present illness culture. Real talk every time, all the time. Get weekly insights on how to shift your thinking, emoting, eating, training, hydrating, goal setting, and resting for you, the everyday athlete. You can cheat your fitness, but you can't steal your health flow. It's Tuesday, 9 a.m. Let's flow.
Welcome to Urban X Real Talk Fitness Radio, where we challenge the fitness between your ears. I'm your host, Tiaja. This morning I woke up and I stretched for about 10 minutes before getting out of bed. Well, big deal, right? Well, it is for me. I also do the same thing before going to bed, but I never used to. In fact, in the past, I never gave much thought to stretching at all. Well, that's not completely true. I thought about it every time I attempted to bend over to retrieve something that had fallen on the floor, when I needed to reach for something above my head, or when I had to stand up after lying down. The painful reality of being inflexible also set in anytime I tried to make any deliberate effort to make stretching a routine or a habit. Going to the gym, eating consciously at least most of the time, that was the easy part. So why was stretching so difficult while waking up when it was pitch black outside and going to the gym was so easy? Especially when the opposite is true for so many people, because going to the gym had become a habit. It was like drinking water or brushing my teeth in the morning and before bed. So stretching in the morning and again at night is a huge deal for me. So what's my point? Everything we do or don't do has most likely been formed from our habits. Habits are those behaviors we perform every day seemingly without effort or the use of willpower. The funny thing about habits is they can never be initiated without willpower or effort. Interestingly, we like to categorize and define our habits as either good or bad. Fair enough. Good habits are those habits that benefit us in some way, while bad habits are those that hurt us or are destructive. And therein lies the reason why many of you are stuck. The last few weeks, we've been discussing the ins and outs regarding fat, distinguishing between white and brown and beige fat. We've talked about how fat is not passive, but active, and oftentimes reactive. We discussed the notable differences between subcutaneous and visceral fat. That subcutaneous is the fat found immediately beneath the skin surface, the pinchable fat, whereas visceral fat is the fat that is mostly responsible for your protruding belly and expanding waistline. That if you have a 35-inch waistline or larger for a woman, or a 40-inch waistline or larger for a man, then you have a substantial amount of visceral fat. We also discuss how dangerous visceral fat is because it wraps itself around the vital organs like the liver and the kidneys and the heart, crowding them and making them a lot less efficient. Visceral fat also produces hormones to keep you storing fat by controlling insulin levels in the body. Studies have shown that excess visceral fat is linked to a higher risk of type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, heart disease, and even certain cancers. Visceral fat also produces inflammatory markers. Over time, these hormones can promote long-lasting inflammation and increase the risk of chronic disease. Long-lasting inflammation may cause plaque to form inside the arteries, which is a risk factor for heart disease. Plaque is a combination of cholesterol and other substances. It grows larger and over time and can eventually rupture. When this happens, the blood in the arteries clots and either partially or completely blocks blood flow. In the coronary arteries, a clot can deprive the heart of oxygen and cause a heart attack. This is known as the portal theory, and it helps explain why visceral fat is harmful. It suggests that visceral fat releases inflammatory markers and free fatty acids that travel through the portal vein to the liver. The portal vein carries blood from the intestines, pancreas, and spleen to the liver. It is believed that this may be the cause of fat buildup in the liver, which potentially leads to liver insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Now, I said all that to say this. Your body is stuck in a maze where the overproduction of visceral fat has become its habit. Today will be just another day unless you decide it won't be. It is Tuesday, February 19th, 2019. Let's flow.
Today we're going over the 9 habits that are going to change your body forever. And when I say forever, I'm talking about you getting into the shape that you want to be in and staying there. Most people can only dream of maintaining a lean body year-round, but today I'm going to show you the 9 habits that'll help you do just that. Let's start with number 1. Don't deny yourself the food you love. You were probably not expecting that one, but it's true. If you want to transform your body and actually maintain your results, you can't stay restricted with your diet plan for too long. When you tell yourself that you can't eat something for a couple weeks, it's totally different than telling yourself you can never eat that same something ever again. If you really love pizza and you decide you're never eating it again, in fact, you're never even going to think about it again, you've just locked yourself into a psychological wrestling match. One that you're probably going to lose because suppressing a thought only makes you think about that thought even more. A much better strategy to deal with your cravings when you're on a long-term plan is by not having any restrictions, but instead understanding your body better. What I mean is that we have two different types of hunger: the physical feeling of hunger and your mind's interpretation of that feeling of hunger. The physical feeling are things like your stomach growling and feeling empty. Maybe even your mouth starts to water or you're feeling low on energy. But most people never even experience the physical feeling of hunger because before they even can, their mind hunger has already taken over. All of a sudden, your mind space becomes full of all these wonderful suggestions of things that will end your hunger, and usually none of them are healthy. And like I just said, suppressing thoughts will only make you think of those thoughts more. So the best way to handle this is to allow yourself to eat whatever your mind is telling you that you really want. However, the catch is that before you allow yourself to eat that pizza, cookie, or ice cream, before you eat whatever it is that your mind is telling you you have to first handle the physical feeling of hunger by having a high protein, high vegetable, healthy carb meal. Now, the reason why I want you to do this is because your mind's hunger isn't real. It's an illusion. It's just a reaction to your body's physical feeling of hunger, and as soon as you satisfy that physical feeling of hunger, 90% of the time you won't even want whatever it is that you were obsessing over. And if you still do, help yourself because you're not going to eat very much of it at all before you're full. You'll be mind blown at how amazing this strategy is. Try it. I can go on and on about how great this strategy is, but there's still 8 other habits that we have to cover, so let's move on to the next one, which is to start exercising with heavy weights. Lifting heavier weights releases more muscle growth and fat-burning hormones than lifting light weights. As long as you're moving at a moderate pace, you'll be able to burn way more calories and get way more done within a shorter period of time. Also for naturals, lifting heavier weights helps encourage more protein synthesis, which isn't as much of a concern for steroid users, but for naturals, this leads to greater muscle gains. My favorite rep range is 6 to 8 reps. So when I say heavy, I'm not talking about powerlifting. But you don't want to pick a weight that you can do for more than 8 reps. If you can do that weight for more than 8 reps, then it's time to move up to a heavier weight. The heavier the weight, the more calories you'll burn with each rep. And by using heavier weights, you'll activate more fast twitch muscle fibers and release lots of fat burning hormones, allowing you to continue burning fat hours after your workout during the recovery process. You'll also build more bone density, and lifting heavier weights consistently will help you increase your metabolism. Point is, lift heavy weights. Most of you that are debating between going heavy or light simply don't want to push yourself. And pushing yourself is required to consistently continue getting results. Next habit is to practice fasting regularly. I want you to get all that nonsense out of your head that you've been told about having breakfast and you want to have X amount of meals per day, because none of that is true. Your body works based off of totals. So if you overeat one day and fast the next day, your totals will probably balance out. Fasting allows you the freedom to eat more of the foods that you enjoy without having to worry as much about going over your total daily calories and macros. It's also one of the best ways to drop insulin levels, leading to more fat loss. You won't slow your metabolism down, you won't lose muscle mass, and you won't starve if you simply don't eat for a period of time. But you will have more time to do other things. You will also be able to have fuller, more enjoyable meals when you actually do eat, and you're gonna enjoy dieting a whole lot more. The next habit is to exercise first thing in the morning whenever possible. If you have trouble getting your workout in, or if you procrastinate, this is a must. By waking up and going straight to your workout, you're doing 2 things. 1, you're getting your workout done and out of the way. And 2, you're starting your day off on a very high note. So many people dread having to do their workout later on in the day, and then the dread turns into excuses, which turns into procrastination, and then they never wind up showing up. Showing up is the majority of the battle, so just start your day by doing your workout before you can start making the excuses. And I promise you, you're gonna be on top of the world and way more productive for the rest of the day. The next habit is to always focus on progressive overload during your workouts. If you've been running 3 miles for cardio for years, it's time to try 5 miles. If you've been Lifting the same weight for squats for 6 weeks, let's try to up that weight even by 5 pounds. The only way to transform your body is by making incremental progress over time. For every workout, try to find one exercise that you can make a little more challenging than last time, and you'll find yourself progressing really fast.
Now here are my 2 cents, and feel free to keep the change. Fortunately, visceral fat is extremely receptive to exercise, diet, and lifestyle changes. With each pound you lose some visceral fat, but in order to get from point A to point B, you must establish a pattern or habit for the body. Just saying that you want to lose weight is the equivalent of saying I want more money but are never willing to work for it. If you live most of your life as a chronic procrastinator, then this is going to be painful but not impossible. To borrow an overused adage, no pain, no gain, right? Let me tell you a short story that might help you. Years ago, I had a client who had spent the better part of her life not having to put a lot of effort or energy towards anything because her minimum effort was the equivalent to everyone else's maximum. Things just came easy for her. In high school, she got straight A's without trying. She ran for school president unopposed. She was voted homecoming queen in her freshman year and most likely to succeed in her senior yearbook. She was offered academic scholarships at several local colleges and universities, but she wanted to be as far away from home as she could be. So she ended up at a major university thousands of miles away from her hometown. To make a long story short, by the end of her freshman year, she was on academic probation and was at risk of losing her scholarship. What happened, you might ask? From childhood on, she would do just enough to get passable results, but nothing more than that. Instead of studying, she would speed through her assignments and then go outside and play or hang out with her friends. But at the university, she received her first reality check. The workload was overwhelming, and many of the basic building blocks required for academic success, such as time management and study habits, she didn't have. Several years later, she managed to finish college with a low C grade. When I met her, she was stuck, grossly overweight, and consumed with failure. We spent the first several months replacing her old procrastinating habits with the habits of industry. The process was hard, and it burned up all of her daily willpower, but eventually, the new her broke through. But it wasn't until then that she could begin to lose weight. Whenever she tried to start a diet or a workout routine, her body no longer believed her. Why? Because your cells have memory, and she had taught them to distrust her efforts, regardless of how well-intentioned they seemed at first. Her body began to change the moment she decided that her short-term thinking about weight loss, how many pounds did I lose today or last week, needed to be replaced by the long-term investment lens known as health. One writer once said that new habits are things that you do, but old habits are things that you are. Until your old habits are replaced by newer, more useful ones that eventually become old, useful habits, you may lose your subcutaneous fat and look great in a dress, but you would have accomplished very little relative to your overall health other than a change of clothing. Dear friends, I wish above all things that you prosper just as your soul prospers. You've been listening to Urban X Real Talk Fitness Radio with your host Tiaja. We're adding a brand new segment to this podcast called In the News, where we can bring you all the latest news from around the globe as it relates to health and fitness. All the news you need to keep you up to date on what's going on relative to your health. It's Real Talk Fitness News, real talk every time, and it's coming soon, so keep it locked. Also, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Snapchat, as well as all of your other favorite social media. One last thing, show your support by hitting that subscribe button and sharing this podcast with your family and friends, or downloading our app at tiajae.podbean.com. Finally, don't forget to stop through our flagship website at www.urbanxfitness.net, where you will find our online stores, the Urban Experience Fit Stores 1 and 2. And then once there, you can download our unique home and gym workouts, dietary menus, as well as purchase some remarkably bold teas and spark your own revolution of self-care. Then head over to our small library of my hand-picked, personally endorsed nutritional products. Got it? Okay. Then get it. Until next week, as always, walk in health and peace.